we begin with lighting of our unity candle. Lighting this candle to remind us that that spark of the divine, the flame of God, is in each and every one of us. Join me in our opening prayer. We pause and turn within, recognizing the source of all life, Spirit itself, is waiting for our attention. And so we turn and know that God is all there is, that everywhere we go, there is the presence of the Almighty, and that deep within us is that place of unconditional love, that place of peace, that place of solace. And so as we come together as a spiritual community today, I speak my word of blessing on each one of us as we open our hearts and our minds to receive our message from Spirit today. Thank you, God, that you are opening our ears to hear, opening our eyes to see, and opening our minds to accept, that we can live with the divine nature flowing from our heart. So I bless this time, I call it sacred, and I release my word into that universal law that always says yes. And so it is. Welcome to the Louisville Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Rick McCollum, and I want you to know that as we come together as a spiritual community, we come together with such joy, and we come together knowing that we are part of this wonderful, magnificent life that is the life of Spirit. We know that all people, no matter who we are and where we are all on the spiritual path toward the one God. So we want you to know that wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you're welcome here with us. And we're glad that you've decided to join us today. So thank you for being a part of us. And now we'll move to our opening song, which is Reaching Higher by the Reach 2 Academy Children.
It doesn't matter where we
And now we move to our time of spiritual reading, followed by our meditation. And that will be led by Tammy, our practitioner of the week.
Thank you. Thank you. First comes the reading, and it is from this month's Science of Mind magazine. And it happens to be today's reading, which I thought was quite wonderful. No greater power. As we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our own presence actually liberates others. Marianne Williamson, A Return to Love. There is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. Ernest Holmes, Living the Science of Mind. Anyone who knows me knows I love superheroes. One of the first to profoundly affect me spiritually was Spider-Man. When Peter Parker's Uncle Ben tells him, with great power comes great responsibility, I immediately connected it to a lesson from Bible study. To whom much is given, much is required. Whatever we have that we call our gifts, talents, skills, blessings, etc., we are called to bring into the world. We are called to be the living embodiment of our spiritual magnificence and to live it out loud, not to hide it under a bushel or within the walls of our centers. What does it look like to unleash the full expansiveness of our God selves into our lives? Living in an open, authentic, transparent manner, as Marianne Williamson says, gives others the permission to do the same. We create the tipping point where the new mass consciousness is that of health, well-being, abundance, joy, and peace. The old consciousness of lack, scarcity, racism, sexism, political animosity, homophobia, and more all become what we read about in history books. When Holmes says there is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, I believe he is referring the allness of God as being greater. It is greater in that it is not bound or limited by time, duality, death, but rather an everywhere present, all at once, eternally. And the presence and power is right now individualizing itself as you. That's how powerful you are. And the affirmation for this morning, I accept my power. I affirm my power. I declare my power. I live my power. My power is that of source, and I use it effectively, lovingly, and wisely. And that leads us right into our meditation for today. This is kind of different, but this I chose for today are the personal affirmations written by Eugene Holden, who's a practitioner. And his thoughts were on reaching higher. He had 4 segments: higher thought, be aware, surrender, and reach higher. Higher thought. Sometimes our experience fills us with thoughts of doubt and of worry. These thoughts can keep us from living full out. This is when we want to reach for a higher thought. This is when we affirm, I am here to express divine intelligence. I am one with the fathomless mind of God. I express ideas that are uplifting. I live in the vibration of higher thought. I am the mind of God. Be aware. A loving intelligence surrounds us, guides us, and directs us to experience our thoughts. Be aware of that still, sacred voice within you. Listen and be guided. I am aware of the power within me that guides and directs me to my highest and best. I am aware of the abundance, creativity, joy, and love that abound all around me. I am grateful for this awareness. Surrender. Surrender is a powerful act of courage and love. It takes trust to surrender to those higher thoughts, to your greatness. When you surrender to your divine self, trust you will always succeed. I surrender to the power and presence of the divine that lives, moves, and has its being is me. I surrender to my beautiful and brilliant life. I am the highest thought of God, made manifest here and now. Reach higher. No matter where you are in your life, you can always reach higher. Know this, you are supported always and in all ways. By reaching higher, you live the abundant life you were created to live. You are the way heaven meets earth. I live from a higher vision. I am supported in all I do. Everywhere I go, I am God in action. Knowing this truth, I give thanks. And thank you. Reverend Rick.
We're doing something just a little different today. I'm going to have a poem read first, and then during my talk we'll have some music. But I hope you enjoy this. Our talk today is "And Still I Rise." So we're with our theme of moving higher, and I'm going to let the beloved Maya Angelou speak to us. So enjoy her poem.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance? As if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
Maya Angelou's classic poem, "And Still I Rise." Though this poem was written in response to the African American experience of slavery, like all great poetry, it articulates universal truth. Her refrain, "And still I rise," is the heartbeat of truth. It proclaims that there is within each one of us that which is unstoppable, inexhaustible, inextinguishable, and unchangeable. That which we call God, Spirit, divine intelligence, the Almighty Presence. That in which we live and move and have our being. And that is what helps us, what causes us to rise up, to always rise up and never be held down. The life of the divine is my life, and it's your life. It's the one life that we all share. And we're not bound by people's attitudes or beliefs. God in us, as us, through us, is never, never limited. Spirit rises over and over again because it is the source of life itself. Think in your mind about the little dandelion that pushes its way up through the concrete sidewalk. It doesn't see the sidewalk as a barrier. All it knows is it's there to grow. And so it reaches for the sky. It reaches for the warmth of the sun, and it rises just like life. Sometimes people around us who may think they're helping us can in fact discourage us from rising up. Well, that is, if we listen to them. What if the obstacle that you see in your way, the challenge, the situation, the circumstance that has come up, what if that really is the path forward? You could ask, what if is in the way is the way? When I first started my career as a registered nurse, my job was on night shift in a med-surg unit. And shortly after that, the night supervisor came to me and asked me if I would move to a position in the ICU. One of the nurses was going through a lot and needed a less stressful position. We swapped jobs, and both of us loved working where the other one had been, so that worked out well. But what I found was after a year, when I would apply for an open position on day shift, I was always passed over. I never got the position on day shift. And so I asked the night supervisor why I was never given any day shift positions. And this lady looked me right in the eye. She said, "Rick, I don't think a man should be a nurse. We don't want the families that are visiting during the days to see you. So I think it's best if you remain on night shift where you're not in the public eye." Can you imagine how that made me feel? Now, of course, looking back, I think, well, that was grounds for a lawsuit for discrimination. And still I rise. You see, I resigned from that position in the hospital and moved to Louisville. I got a job in ICU, on night shift, of course, but with my experience, I quickly moved into a supervisory position, and before too long, I was moved to day shift. If I would have let myself be held back from my dreams by the obstacle of my supervisor's prejudice, I would have limited my life. I could have given up my dream, my desires. But from deep within me, I found that inspiration to move on. I was led by Spirit to rise up and to keep working to achieve my dream, to walking toward my dream, even when it meant moving to a new location. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Have you looked at your life? Carl Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I decide to become." Now let me explain that God expresses through people, and people can limit that expression of God. You see, God, Spirit, is unconditional love, and it flows to us unconditionally. Do we allow it to flow out through us? Or are we stopping that flow of love with judgments, with prejudice? Have you examined your life to ask? I felt the pain of someone who didn't accept me for who and what I had to offer. But my work here was to listen to the pain and to learn what it was there to teach me. So I got to look at where in my life did I not accept myself? Where in my life did I not value the unique expression that I am? Where did I not feel worthy of having my dream? You see, these aren't easy questions. It takes work, mental work, to change our life. And it takes work, mental work, to move past other people's opinions. It takes work, mental work, to learn to love ourselves. Sometimes on my journey, I was by myself contemplating what my future would be, what I wanted. Sometimes I was in the chair of a therapist who was guiding me. For many years, I was not on a conscious spiritual path. I had really given up on the God of my childhood. But when I found the New Thought philosophy, I found a new life. I found a new energy for life. And then my God was not far off, not the sky God of my youth. God was right here inside of me. It was in all of nature around me. God is omnipresent. Now, in Science of Mind, we teach that there is nothing to be healed, only truth to be revealed. Let me explain this. We are not a salvation theology. We don't have to be saved because we have a separation from God. We don't need the blood of Jesus to save us or to repair that relationship, because there is no separation to be saved from. We are all one. We, in Science of Mind, are a revelation theology. We get to reveal the God already within us. God has not left us, and we have not left God, but we can turn our attention to that indwelling Spirit Almighty. That's the very nature of us. And when we can look with a new perspective through the eyes of God in us, we can see Spirit in each other. We're all children of the one God. Even though we might look different on the outside, we have different ways of speaking, different methods of how we live, how we worship. Have you ever heard, if you don't see God in all, you don't see God at all? Let me say that again. If you don't see God in all, you don't see God at all. You see, God is very diverse. And God expresses through each and every one of us. We are all made in the likeness and image of the divine. Now, likeness and image does not mean physical form. God is not a physical form sitting in heaven watching us. God expresses through us. That means that the nature of the divine is our nature too. Our nature is like that divine source. So deep within us is that place of unconditional love. Deep within us is that place of peace, that place of joy. When we hear news about tragedies that are happening in our world, and we do this almost daily, do we jump to the mindset of them and us? Do we see separation? Do we let negative energy drag us down? Or do we work to see God in all? This past week, I was told about a shooting that happened at a school bus stop in Louisville. A 14-year-old was killed. 2 others were wounded. This happens too much today in our world. And how do we respond when we hear this kind of news? As people on a spiritual path, can we breathe and remember that we are never separated from God? What does that mean to you? That you are never separated from God? Spirit is right here with us, holding us, being with us, even as we hear horrific news. So maybe the way out is walking through that obstacle in front of us. Instead of shaking our heads and walking away, those poor people. Maybe we need to fall to our knees and begin to pray. Pray for the victims. Pray for the perpetrator. Pray for guidance in what is ours to do. I can tell you I don't know the answer, but I know it is my job to be open to how Spirit wants to express through me. Spirit is not going to run away and hide. I might want to run away and hide, but then I'm limiting Spirit, aren't I? You see, God in me is bold. The Spirit in me speaks of unconditional love. It speaks of acceptance for all people, no matter what the condition is. Are we allowing Spirit to flow through us? Reverend JJ, who spoke to us last week, one of her family members, a cousin who is 22 and in law school, she had a very promising future, but she was shot and killed. Talking with Reverend JJ this past week, she shared that the family had asked her to officiate the funeral, which was yesterday. And Reverend JJ said, I don't know how to comfort this grieving family. I reminded her that her job was to let Spirit love the family through her. It was her job to honor their grief, even though she couldn't explain the senseless act. There are things we don't know, we can't explain in life. They're called mysteries of life. And do we really have to explain it? Can we not drop the judgment and just move to love? That's what I'm clear about, that my job is to show unconditional love, no judgment. Sometimes all we can do is hold each other. Hold each other and allow the person to have their feelings. Validate their feelings for them. Yes, this is a terrible act. Yes, I feel your pain. I feel your grief. We can be there with someone to share love. And sometimes sharing love means sitting silently with someone. Just letting them know that you're there for them when and if they need to talk. You are the presence of Spirit. You are the presence of peace and love. And that can be most helpful. You don't have to explain what happened or why. Just be love. Can we live as Spirit in the world and hold and comfort people when they're going through whatever the situation is? Or are we trying to run away? and limit the God that wants to express through us. I had another experience this week. A friend of mine, Pema, is the executive director for Dreamcatchers for the Soul. This organization teaches many different meditation and mindfulness methods, including Tai Chi and Qigong. She works with at-risk youth, kids who are underprivileged. Some are homeless. Many are living in foster care. All of them have different situations. And she was telling me about an experience she had with a 15-year-old girl. The girl had attended one of her meditation classes, which was held on the beach. Doesn't that sound like a wonderful setting? Doing meditation and yoga on the beach. At the end of each class, Pema also always tells the kids, "I love you." And you can feel it coming from her heart. "I love you." And then she asks them to tell themselves, "I love myself." After the class, this girl came up to her and gave her a hug. She thanked her, and with big tears in her eyes, she said, "I have never had anyone tell me they love me." This girl was 15 years old, and she had never had anyone in her life say that they loved her. She had been tossed from foster home to foster home. The little girl said, "And I've never told myself I love myself until today." You see, the girl had some problems. She was what we'd say was a cutter. That meant she cut her arms with a knife. She did that because she didn't feel worthy. She said to Pema, "I promise you, I will not cut myself again." You see, you never know who needs to hear the kind words that you can share. You don't know who needs to see your smile today. It doesn't have to be something major, just being there, just being that presence of Spirit. Can you let Spirit be bold through you? Can you share unconditional love and a prayer? Even if it's a silent prayer for someone. That is how Spirit expresses through us. When we allow that flow from the divine and that nature of the divine to come through us, whether you want to experience this incoming through the top chakra of your head and out to the world, or welling up from within your heart and flowing out, it's Spirit. And Spirit is always at the center of everything we're doing. I'm going to play a video for you now and let you listen to this song. This is about some people who are not having the best day, so to speak, but they recognize the truth that Spirit is at the center of it all.
Some days I feel like I can't win, can't get it right. And it don't matter how hard I try, today is not the day. When it feels like I'm going crazy and it looks like everything's changing, come sun, come rainy day, you were still the same. In the dark, in the light, in the morning and night, in the good, in the hurt, and the places I hide. When I rise, when I fall, you'll be there through it all. At the start, at the end, in the center of it.
Yes, at the center of it is Spirit. Do we know this? Can we trust that this is always our experience? Are you ready to reveal that indwelling Spirit to all those around you? Jesus said, "It is done as we believe." Well, what are you believing? Do you believe that you will rise from any circumstance? Do you know that you are like the phoenix, that you will rise out of the ashes of whatever difficulty you might have in life? You will rise out of the ashes of whatever experience you are going through, and you'll rise to a new life, a greater life. Norman Vincent Peale said, "No matter how dark things seem to be, or actually are, raise your sights, see the possibilities, for they are always there." So my invitation for you this week is to spend some time in meditation of your life's journey. Know that you were made by God, that divine intelligence, and that its nature is within you. Be grateful for every experience in your life, the good times and the hard times. For it's taken it all to bring you to this very point, right here, right now, where you are today. Be grateful and love yourself. Life is always lived from the inside out. So we must start by loving ourselves, by honoring our dreams. And then we can be there to share that unconditional love and that peace that is at the center of it all. That is Spirit at the center of everything. Let us pray. We pause and turn within, recognizing that there is a message here for each and every one of us. That as we take in that idea that we are a revelation theology, we are called to reveal the God that is within us. Give us strength, Spirit, that we can step forward in bold ways to live life anew, and that when there are circumstances and hard times and horrific news, that we know how we can turn within and allow that peace that is our divine nature, that unconditional love that is our nature, to flow forward through us. Help our minds to be at peace, that we don't have to have the answer to each and every situation. We don't have to explain every circumstance or make sense of what's going on around us. We simply need to be that presence of love and peace. Allow people to have their feelings, validate their feelings. Because until we can feel our feelings, we can't move past them. So help us, that we can move past our feelings in a meaningful way and tap back in to the unconditional love, the unconditional peace, and the unconditional joy that is Spirit at the center of it all, living in us, through us, and as us. So I speak my word of blessing on each one of us as we go forth to be the expressions of the divine that we were brought here to be. I release my word, and we seal it by saying together, and so it is.
So it is. All right. That time of service, our prosperity affirmation. I will say the affirmation, and then we will repeat it together. The prosperity affirmation is, I am a limitless being living in Spirit's abundant supply. And if you will repeat it with me, I am a limitless being living in Spirit's abundant supply. And now I turn it over to Reverend Rick to bless our offering today.
So I bless each offering. I bless each one, knowing that as we give, we also receive. And I bless the Louisville Center for Spiritual Living, that as we support financially and we support with our spiritual prayers, with our time, our talent, and our treasure, we are blessed, and we bless the world through all we do. And so it is.
And so it is. And I don't want to let Pat down. I've got my basket here. I want you to know that, girl, right here, ready to receive. Okay, time for announcements for today. Look at this. POW, Practitioner of the Week. You all are used to hearing POD, Practitioner of the Day. But we pray for everybody in our center all week long. Plus, look at that. Pow, pow, pow. That means we think about you all week long, offering you the highest and best and knowing all the highest and best. So from now on, we will be the POW team. There's going to be a book study by Lita Miller, The Way Out, Healing Chronic Pain. 6 weeks beginning Tuesday, September 28th. That would be this Tuesday via Zoom. Time is 7:15 Central, 8:15 Eastern Time, and the cost is $50. Saturday, October 2nd, is our first Saturday visioning call. Join us at 10 a.m. on Telebridge. This is not on Zoom, just the phone, for this 45-minute meeting. And there are the numbers and the access code if you want to join us. Also, I would like to always add at the end of announcements, you are magnificent. You are magnificent. I am magnificent. We are all magnificent. Thank you. And now to our closing song, Love Train by the OJs.
Well, I decided we needed something just a little different today. So I'm giving you an alternative version of Love Chain.
All right.
And this is by the group called Home Free.
Gonna let it ride, 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 ride. Woo, woo. People all over the world, yeah. Join hands, come on. Start a love train, love train. People all over the world, people. Join hands, come on. Start a love train, love train. The next stop that we make will be England, yeah. Tell all the folks in Russia and China too.
And now for our benediction. Know that as you go from this experience today, you go held up and held in the divine embrace. Allow that spirit that is within you, that nature of the divine that is unconditional love, that is perfect peace, to flow forth from you this week and to touch the lives of all around you. My blessings to each and every one, and so it is.